Have you ever stopped to think, what if there is a tiny, tangible piece of neurological hardware right inside your brain that actually controls your perception of reality? I mean, imagine if there was a physical gland that, when fully online, could grant you access to levels of deep intuition, intelligence, and spiritual connection that look, well, almost supernatural. It sounds completely like science fiction, I know, but it is actually grounded in real human anatomy.
So today we are exploring what's often called the biological third eye, or, as science calls it, the pineal gland. We are going to strip away all the myths and look at this fascinating little structure from a really grounded neuroscientific perspective. We'll check out its anatomy, figure out why it basically shuts down on us as we get older, and look at the actual biological steps you can take to restore it.
Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll cover the science of the third eye. Second, ancient secrets and symbols. Third, the calcification problem. And finally, awakening through stress reduction. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Science of the Third Eye and the Hardware of Consciousness. This isn't just a metaphor we're talking about here. It is undeniably real, physical hardware. So what exactly is the pineal gland? Well, it's this tiny endocrine gland roughly the size of a single grain of rice, and it's shaped remarkably like a little pine cone tucked right smack in the center of your brain. And here is where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. It actually contains photoreceptor cells, very similar to the ones found in the retina of your physical eyes. So when ancient mystics called it the third eye, they were literally describing biological hardware. Plus, it uniquely sits right outside the blood-brain barrier. Because of that, it is one of the most highly vascularized structures in your entire brain. It just gets massive direct blood flow.
And this massive blood flow makes it a total chemical powerhouse. Now, science has known for a long time that it produces melatonin, the stuff that regulates your sleep-wake cycles. It also produces serotonin, which governs your mood and well-being. But there is also compelling research suggesting it produces DMT, or dimethyltryptamine. If you aren't familiar, DMT is one of the most powerful consciousness-altering compounds known to exist. It's the exact same active compound associated with near-death experiences, deep mystical states, and those profound shifts in perception people talk about after ayahuasca ceremonies. And your body has the potential to produce this naturally. Okay, moving on to Section 2, Ancient Secrets and Symbols, Pre-MRI Knowledge. Because honestly, the craziest part of this whole thing is that ancient civilizations knew all about this gland thousands of years before we ever invented MRI machines.
Take the famous philosopher René Descartes, for example. He actually described the pineal gland as the seat of God within. He somehow recognized that this specific tiny location in the brain was the profound bridge connecting our physical bodies to our higher consciousness.
And it wasn't just him. It's incredible how universally this knowledge was encoded across vastly different global civilizations. Look at Egyptian esotericism. The staff of Osiris features two intertwining serpents rising up to meet a pine cone. It perfectly represents energy traveling up the spine to activate this exact gland. Over at the Vatican, they have the Pine Cone Courtyard, which literally features the largest pine cone statue in the entire world. In Hinduism, it's represented as the Ajna Chakra, or third eye, sitting right between the eyebrows to govern intuition. And in Buddhism, that specific focal point during meditation is symbolized by the dot on a Buddhist statue's forehead. They were all pointing to the exact same anatomical structure.
We even see this encoded in Christian texts. When Jesus of Nazareth said, "If your eye is single, your whole body will be full of light," he clearly wasn't talking about physical eyesight. He was pointing directly to this single inner eye, the pineal gland. Historical figures weren't just speaking in poetic metaphors. They were likely pointing straight to this physical inner hardware and its biological capacity to access a reality way beyond our normal five senses.
So that begs a pretty massive question. If this gland is our ultimate antenna for divine intuition, why aren't we all walking around experiencing superhuman clarity every single day? Well, that brings us to Section 3, the calcification problem, and why your hardware is offline.
The sad truth is, this incredible piece of hardware actually goes offline for most of us as we age. Think about when we are children. This gland is highly active. Kids are fiercely imaginative, super intuitive, and they almost seem connected to this whole other realm of possibility. But the tragic biological timeline here is that by the age of 17, the average pineal gland actually begins to show calcification. It literally becomes coated in calcium deposits. By middle age, especially in Western populations, the function of this gland is significantly compromised. So most adults are just walking around operating with their inner hardware on mute, and they don't even realize it.
So what is actually causing all this calcification?
There are two main culprits that get discussed a lot. On one hand, we have fluoride accumulation. Now, this is heavily debated in the scientific community, but some research does suggest the pineal gland accumulates more fluoride than any other soft tissue in the body. But on the other hand, we have a much bigger, universally proven factor: chronic stress and cortisol. Think about it. Just like your gut, your heart, or your immune system deteriorates under constant stress, the pineal gland is absolutely no different.
And here is the absolutely crucial point to understand. Remember how we talked about it sitting outside the blood-brain barrier? That makes it incredibly vulnerable. The pineal gland is totally exposed to systemic inflammation and all those stress chemicals circulating in your blood. When you live in a constant state of survival or fear, or you're dealing with unhealed trauma, your body is just flooded with cortisol. That chemical bath directly assaults and essentially shuts down this highly sensitive piece of hardware.
But hey, don't worry, there is incredibly good news here. You can actually reverse this. Let's move to our final section, awakening through stress reduction and rebooting the hardware.
If you go searching online right now, you will find a million crazy hacks to quote-unquote awaken your third eye. You'll see these wildly complex 47-step protocols, things that involve tracking specific lunar cycles, doing intense fasts, or doing weird breathing exercises just to move spinal fluid around. And while those might be fun to explore, they kind of completely miss the simple, foundational truth here. Awakening this gland is really just about biological detoxification. Look, you don't magically awaken a liver, right? You detoxify it so it functions properly. You need to treat the pineal gland the exact same way. It's just like an organ or a muscle that needs a healthy environment to build back its capacity.
To truly reboot this hardware, you really only need to focus on 3 core steps. First, downregulate your nervous system. You have to stop that constant flood of stress chemicals. Second, do the inner work to clear your limiting beliefs and unhealed trauma, mostly because those are the very things triggering your stress response in the first place. And third, simply allow the biological hardware to come back online naturally. When you stop poisoning its environment with chronic stress, the gland just naturally regenerates. It knows what to do.
And that brings us to the ultimate takeaway for today. Awakening isn't something you can just force through some magic internet recipe. Awakening is just a natural byproduct of healing. When you finally take your foot off the gas and get your nervous system out of survival mode, your body always wants to return to its full functioning capability. The door between this physical world and your deepest intuition will just naturally swing wide open.
Deep intuition, crystal clarity, and profound connection, these things are not just reserved for a special few people. The literal machinery for greatness is sitting right between your ears right now, just waiting to do exactly what it was designed to do. Your biological hardware is waiting. So the only question left is, are you ready to do the inner work, lower your stress, and finally take it off mute?